Good evening, viewers and listeners, to Beyond the Headlines for today, Monday. It is the 28th day of August, and of course, you know it's 2023. I'm your host for Beyond the Headlines tonight, Gordon Joseph, and I am joined in studio by Mr. Dexter Mitchell, the man who made in Grenada, and also via our Zoom platform, I've got Hazel-Ann Regis-Buckles, former Olympian, all the way in Louisiana, and we're expected to be joined by Mr. Davis Adams. He's a sports analyst and commentator. And good night, Dexter. Good night, Hazel.
Good night, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Good night to your viewers and listeners. Good night to Hazel. It's a pleasure to be in the esteemed company of a former Olympian and still doing, I guess she's going to speak about the work that she's still doing with sports. And looking forward to the conversation this evening.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see such a beautiful face and knowing how worth and how depth as it relates to the history of Grenada, especially in the realms of athletics. Hazel, how have you been?
I have been great. I must say I am thankful to be here this evening, and I am very much thankful to have recently been voted to be the Athletics Commission chair, giving back to my country, and most importantly, giving back to the future of our sports, which is, of course, our athletes. So thank you all so much for having me here this evening. And I've just been working very hard to make sure that everything that we do for the Athletics Commission moving forward is intentional with our executive team. So again, I am here to share a lot of what we're doing, but also to speak on sports, because again, what is our world without sports, right?
Well, Hazel, I know a lot of folks would be happy to see your face and hear your voice, and for me, it's a breath of fresh air, really. But not much have changed physically. This is the same Hazel I saw blazing the tracks at the stadium. What have Hazel been up to besides, sports is one aspect of your life, your professional career in terms of academics and so forth. What have you been doing?
So I have been working in the field of education. I am a middle school, kindergarten through 8th grade now, because we just expanded, school leader. So I am responsible for children. I am also supervising over 90 adults. And on the side, I am part of an organization called the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. I am the educational co-chair, soon to be the chair. And of course, I am also the Athletics Commission chair. So everything that I do is being a servant leader and giving back to the community that gave to me, including, of course, my country, Grenada. So I have just been really working towards sharing insights, whether that is academics, whether that is sports, whether that is health, whether that is mental well-being, as much as I can, because I do believe I have a lot of knowledge in those areas, and it's important for us to bring awareness and to share, to support, and to make sure that we give back.
And how do you think your active participation in athletics at your more youthful stage prepared you for such major accomplishments at this time?
Well, I do believe that it played a huge role. First of all, just participating in sports alone gave you a sense of discipline. It allows you to be exposed to many different areas, such as, the mental health of just you yourself as an athlete, and also just your academic performance. So I would say just growing up and being able to partake in sports have really shaped who I am today. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the great support of my family. Great support of my coach, Denise Williams, great support of my former principal, Madeline Ferguson, and just the whole St. David's, Mama Ken community, just everybody that really took time to, whether it was just to instill good words, my teachers, just everyone. It took a village to really, really bring me to where I am today. And I'm just super, super grateful for everyone and the part that they played, including our Olympic and athletics associations as well. Because again, without the support, this would not be possible. I truly believe having great role models in my life, my aunt in New York, Cam Simeon, my mom, Mel Regis, my dad, of course, super Fimba nurse, the best you can ever ask for when you talk about a father, my grandmother, Janice nurse, just everybody. I have a huge family who is definitely dedicated to make sure that I did well, and whether that was financial support, my uncle, Ken Simeon, who bought my first dress to the sports award ceremony, I cannot forget this. So I just have a lot of people to thank thank and a lot to be grateful for. And everything that has happened to me throughout my life has shaped who I am today, and I'm super grateful for that.
And of course, you know, St. David is extremely proud of Hazel and by extension Grenada. Now, stay right there. I'm going to talk to the man in studio with me at the moment, Mr. Dexter Mitchell. You are representing Made in Grenada, but beyond that, you're also a profound sports enthusiast. For those who don't know Dexter, that doesn't include me nor Hazel, but tell us about Dexter Mitchell.
Well, you made a reference to Made in Grenada. Made in Grenada is a company that came about in 2002, and it came about from an entertainment event that we put on at Quarantine Point that featured 40 local artists. So some people refer to it as, it was 40 local artists, the total local showcase. So some people still refer to it as 40 local, the total local showcase, or the Made in Grenada event. And obviously, since then, and even before that, all my endeavors, business and personal, has been about Grenada, ensuring that we brag about Grenada, we boast about Grenada, we do everything that we can for the development of Grenada for young people. So it involves charity work. And I must mention my mom, Ms. Jacqueline Schoon, who helps a lot in that. She's based in New York. So as a matter of fact, we have some stuff on the way that she sent again this weekend that we help people with. Of course, entertainment, and as a Calypsonian yourself, you know me around entertainment, carnival and so on. So anything that can advance Grenada, anything for the betterment of Grenada. So I'm really happy to be in the pleasure and in the company of Hazel-Ann tonight, because there's some stuff that we're working on. She mentioned the Athletes Commission, and even the athletes who are active right now, you know, and we'll speak about more of that, to be able to assist them to do even better. And let me just say this. Growing up in New York and growing up around other West Indians, there was a point where I was jealous of the Jamaicans, because they spoke so passionately about themselves and the country, and they were so braggadocious about what they were doing, even if it was the simplest thing, you know. And I was like, you know, Grenadians need to be like that. We need to talk up our own, and I think some of the conversation tonight will be about that. How do we take care of our own? How do we talk up? How just not wait on when they get to a final, but provide the support throughout the process, throughout the entire journey, to get them to the World Finals or to the Olympics.
Well, tonight it's a sort of bittersweet moment for us here in Grenada. Bitter in the fact that our ace Olympic athlete, Kirani James, got DQ'd in the just concluded World Athletics Championship. But the sweet part is, one Grenadian stepped back a bit, and another Grenadian came to the fore in the person of Lyndon Victor. We just had Kirani, Lyndon, Anderson Peters, and Haley Hazard at the just concluded World Athletics Championships. I'm going to come to you now, Hazel-Ann. What are your thoughts as it relates to the athletes individually? You know, in preparation and then the actual delivery in the event.
So honestly, knowing each athlete, some not personally, but just knowing about the work that they have been doing, I must say it takes a lot of work to be in the position that each of them are in. Starting off with Kirani. Kirani had a really tough year, as we all know. So just to step foot on the track and just to be there and give it his all, I think that's the most we can ask of him. He has done so much for Grenada, and I think whether or not he won a medal or not, supporting him and being there for him is the most important thing that we can do. So just speaking on their performance, while I know each person wanted to leave with a gold medal or a medal, we did have one person, Lyndon, getting the bronze medal, but I think each person representing Grenada, it's just a big deal, just being able to be present at the World Championships or any major competition and wearing your country colors, flying the flag, or just walking the field. It is super important. So I do believe they each gave their best despite the results. It's easy to say what should have happened and shouldn't happen, but I do believe that each person will go back, reflect on their performances, and make sure that they work towards their main goal. Sometimes it takes setbacks for us to reflect and see, okay, I need to step back and really reflect, take care of myself, get well, and really prepare for another event. And thinking about working throughout the year, this is a business to them. This is how they make their living for some of them. So again, being understanding, being empathetic, and understanding that they are human beings at the end of the day, and each person go out there wanting to represent Grenada and make us proud. So the least we can do is support them regardless of the outcome.
Right. Dexter, you might have a more personal touch to this, especially as it relates to Anderson Peters. He did not qualify for the javelin final, and to us here, that was a bit of, discomfort, if you want to use that word. In terms of his preparation, we all had very, very high expectations of Anderson, but as Hazel-Ann rightfully said, the event on that day, it's a total ball game amidst the preparation that you might have had. Going there on the track is a difference, I think. From your personal experience, what are your thoughts?
Well, Hazel-Ann mentioned Kieran is a tough year. Anderson also had a very tough year. And let me just preface what I'm going to say by saying that the fact that he won the World Championship in the last 2 editions of the World Championship should not be taken for granted. And the hard work he has to maintain, that level he has to maintain to be at that level, manifested itself in 2023. Both him and Coach Paul Phillip made the decision that he would come home to train. And so he's doing all of this, winning a World Championship while training on the grass in Nassages, going up against athletes who have professional settings and training centers and so on. So we must commend him for what he has already done. And I don't think he owes Grenada or anybody else anything else because he has won us 2 World Championships. But this year was a tough year for him, and not just Anderson, but if you look at what is happening around track and field circles, Michael Norman, who is the defending world champion or was the world defending champion in the 400, he opted out because of injury. Sidney McLaughlin also opted out because of injury. And because of the schedule, and we know what COVID did, so you have 3 years, and it's going to be 5 years, 5 consecutive years of global championships. It's going to take a toll on the body.
Yes.
And at some point, athletes would have to make a decision. I'm going to have to skip 1 or 2 of those events and focus on others. So in the case of Michael Norman, for example, he opted out of the World Championship in 2023 to focus on preparation for the Olympics in France in 2024. So I know and spoke to Coach Paul Phillip up to last evening, and he was saying that they would have to come back and do some reset. Not that anything is wrong, but the toll that this vigorous preparation is taking on his body, some work will have to be done to get him ready for 2024. I know Kieran is going to come back and do some additional work also. Lyndon is stepping up his game, and I'm so ecstatic and so happy for him. And you saw the exhilaration, the effort that he had to put in. And again, he had a very, very tough go at it. Doctors telling him that he would not be able to compete both mentally and physically at the World Championships this year, and to be able to compete and win. You kind of felt that it was a complete team effort, that the team they were happy for Lyndon, yeah, and they were happy with the results. I kind of got that camaraderie, that they were all in this together, and the bronze kind of just topped it off, that medal just topped it off for all of them.
The cake for Team Grenada.
Exactly.
Just to add a little humor to it, just yesterday morning in church, actually, Lyndon's dad goes to I go to the same church as him, and he was saying, tomorrow when you go to the program, let them know it's not the jersey that made him come get him the bronze. It was in the jeans.
Yeah, no.
So he made it was just a very proud. Even in the church yesterday, he was celebrated. Because that bronze medal, Island, to us here, it was as though he got the gold.
Yes, absolutely. Again, it's really, really hard to be in each of their shoes, right? Because you're thinking about how much you want to make sure your country is proud of your performance. But the things that our professional athletes go through, I don't think anyone truly understands. Not just the hard work, but the mental toll that it also takes on them. So I think being appreciative, also being supportive, and giving the athletes a break sometimes, because sometimes we all need it. We can't be our top every single championship, every single meet. The only female reminds me of me always traveling, competing, and being the only female. We had Hazard, the only female, just how we can also motivate and push her as well as she continued to do well. And all of our female athletes, which is something I definitely want to talk about, because we have a lot of our male athletes, but how do we get our female athletes in queue with everything that's going on?
Well, I'm very happy you raised that, Hazel, and because that was going to be my next point. Our lone female in that team representing Grenada was Haley. And what do you think, both you and Dexter, while Hazel-Ann responds to that, you'll ponder on it, what can be done to enhance, motivate, and stimulate more female athletes so they can be at that competitive level to represent us regionally and internationally? Because it's a cause for concern, eh?
I would definitely say times have changed, right? I remember when we were growing up, it felt like we wanted this. This was so important to us. And I'm not saying that our future female athletes don't want the same thing, but I think time have changed to where we have to really go back to the drawing board and start really looking at our younger athletes, like early as high school, primary school, and start identifying them and see our talent and really start molding and shaping them. Because it's harder now. In the past, you have coaches who, and I'm not saying that they're not doing that now, but really would spend a lot of time, whether it was in the morning, afternoons, and also we had a village who pushed you. So I'm not in Grenada, so I can't speak on specifics of what's happening and what's not happening, but I do know that there is a need for not just investment, but identification of talent at a really early age, and putting things in place to make sure that they are developed, that they're receiving the good training that they need, the good nutrition, the good coaching, the good everything, and they're being mentored. Because again, I am not 100% sure why our female athletes are not where they need to be at the level that they need to be. But I do think that is a research that needs to happen. We need to speak to female athletes, and which is something as part of the commission we'll be doing, just to understand them, like what is causing a lot of our female athletes to drift away from whether it is the sport itself or being able to attain their goal by making it to major championships. But I do believe that we have athletes. I just believe that there just needs to be some work around identification, support, and how do we make sure we get them to that level.
Dexter, I'd like you to come in there. Do you think, based on what Hazel-Ann said, I remembered earlier in the year I was speaking to an athletics coach that was attached and assigned to the Ministry of Education, and I was questioning him as it relates to the scouting for athletes throughout the school system. Are you satisfied and happy with that thoroughness that we were expecting in identifying? I remembered one of the questions I asked him pointedly: do you see another Kirani in the making? Do you see another Hazel-Ann? What are your thoughts on that?
And I agree with Hazel in terms of the talent identification. We still do not have a specific program to find the talent, to identify the talent, and to provide the support, to provide the pathway to international success. And we could go as far back as Junior Murray with West Indies cricket. He was on his own, essentially. It was his will and his determination to play for West Indies that made him make the West Indies team. And I think a lot of that is happening now. Some of the athletes have more support. So, for example, Kirani James started out with Coach Albert Joseph in Guelph and Speed Zone, and that circle provided the support. But nationally, we don't have a support system, and I think that continues to be a challenge for us. And not just the female athletes, I think the male athletes now are starting to suffer. As it stands right now, we cannot identify not necessarily the next Kirani or Anderson, but who is going to be the next person, who is the next young athlete we can identify who's going to bring us global glory. I know there has been a lot of talk about the sports policy, but it's my opinion that it is taking too long. We were here last year around the same time after Anderson won gold and Kirani won silver, and we're having the same conversations. And a year later, we're still here having the same conversations.
So where do you think, having said that, because that was my other contention to the talks about the sports policy, and as a matter of fact, there are talks about it here, and there are also talks about it throughout the region. So I think from an administrative standpoint, it is recognized that a sports policy is necessary.
Of course.
It really is, but why the laid back approach? That's cause for concern.
I don't know if we have the right people doing it, and that's, again, I know how thin-skinned we are in this society. You know how protective we get. Somebody might be calling somebody now and say, Dexter is on TV criticizing. No, I'm not. I'm trying to highlight the fact that we need certain things in place. Every athlete does not have the mental fortitude of a Kirani James or a Lyndon Victor. So there are some athletes, and Coach Paul Phillip has identified athletes to me who are probably more talented than Anderson Peters, but Anderson Peters is more determined. He's stronger mentally, and that has led to his success. So for the athlete who is not as determined as a Junior Murray or Devon Smith or Andre Fletcher or Hazel-Ann, they need a support system. They need a support structure.
Mentoring sort of thing.
Mentoring, whether it's psychological treatment, whether it's just somebody to talk to. There might be challenges at home. How do you get to practice, for example? Are you getting the right nutrients to develop? That comes out of a comprehensive policy. We cannot continue to give lip service to it and hope that one or two persons are going to just break through the ranks and become world champion. World championships are not won by chance. And it's not just Grenada. Jamaica has the same challenges. Trinidad and Tobago has the same challenges. But we are focused here on Grenada. We belong to Grenada. We cannot continue to wish that it is just going to happen and celebrate when it happens. We have to provide the support for the athletes. When they come back, I think there has to be a sit down with the team. What were some of the challenges? What are some of the things that are missing? And I could speak to some of it. So, for example, a professional athlete now in this era must travel with a physiotherapist because of the strains that happens to the body. I mean, you look at what Anderson is doing, sprinting, stopping, throwing the javelin, what he does to his shoulder and so on. Kirani, the runs that you have to do, the consecutive days you have to run and so on. So you must travel with a physiotherapist. That costs money. This is not somebody, a professional, who's going to volunteer. I know that Anderson had somebody coming from Mississippi a few months back to do some work on his body. His cost was $1,200 per day. You have to pay him whether he stays here a week or 2 weeks. Supplements, for a professional athlete can cost as much as $500 or more a month. Those things have to be paid for. So we have to determine, and the back end of it is we look at the showcase. Although the two Canadian athletes won gold and silver, Lyndon's bronze was more celebrated even on the broadcast.
Yes, definitely.
He got more airtime, which was Grenada's airtime. The Kirani losing his coach and still making it to the final was a fantastic story for World Athletics. That got featured also. And Anderson was always going to be featured because he's the defending champ. That is Grenada's success. That is Grenada's story. That is Grenada's feature that is going to sell Grenada to millions and millions of people, selling Grenadian personality, Grenadian success. So we have to get our house in order and provide the support, not just only for those athletes, but for the next generation of young athletes to come, because we are the ones who are Grenada is benefiting when they do well.
Is it a case, would you say, and Hazel-Ann, you can chime in on this, do you think it's a case where culturally, Grenadians, and I keep saying that all the time, we were taught to be academics? For success, you had to be at academia to be successful. But current trends in the world today are showing that the sports people and the entertainers and so forth are the ones who are making the money. They are the ones who have to get accountants to check the cash. So do you think it's a total reset we are needing, a total change of mindset and so forth, to realize that, hey, we have to come up to the time and give equal emphasis, because we don't just want to produce academicians. We want rounded individuals, But
we have a perfect example in front of us right now. sports provides an opportunity for you to be better. You don't have to become a world champion. You don't have to win an Olympic gold medal, but you can become a success story academically later on in life through the pathway that sports has provided. So a lot of athletes, Hazel-Ann included, because of your God-given talent, would be able to earn a degree, and that will improve you a lot in life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the next Anderson Peters. And all three gentlemen, and the lady, Hazel, has a master's degree, and the other three gentlemen all have first degrees. So when they are done with track and field, they have an opportunity to continue to make better for themselves in life. So it is, we have to understand, it's not one or the other. So we don't have to say to people, you know what, we have to identify sport as the new career. Sport is going to lead you through that. And I remember hearing an interview with Dr. Sean Lambert, and he was saying that, I guess back in that time, he had to make a decision. Does he sacrifice making a decent living for sport? And sport was challenging at the time in terms of sustaining yourself and trying to do well and represent your country. And he opted to pursue academics, and now he's a medical doctor. But we have to be able to create that balance. We have to be able to identify the opportunities that are there for young people and say to them, yeah, go there, do your country proud, but you're also getting an opportunity to improve yourselves and improve the opportunities for your family that you've left back here in Grenada.
I totally agree. I think it's a balance. I believe in that whole child, that whole growth aspect, because for myself speaking, I graduated with 2 degrees, double degree, while I ran collegiate, and I also ran on the circuit, and I also represented Grenada. It is possible, but it is a mindset thing. I do want to say times have changed. I think if our athletes are not seeing or having an understanding like how you can actually use academics and sports, and you don't have to be the next Olympian, you don't have to be the next professional athlete, but how can you use both to get you to forward yourself, right? Yeah. If that means that, okay, you're on collegiate, when you're finished, you're able to get a good job. Getting a good job, how do you give back to your country, and how do you keep that cycle? Because it's all about growing ourselves, but at the same time, don't just keep what we have, but taking what we have and bringing back to our country for the next young athlete who might just want to be better than us, or because I don't want to say just like us, better than us. So I do believe that academics and sports go hand in hand. And talking about like this post-athletic life, post-athletic career, this is something that we're working on for the Athletes Commission. We're going to have several forums coming up where we bring awareness to our athletes, because a lot of our athletes don't understand, or they don't have that support to make that transition from what they actually know to the real world. Mm-hmm. In college, you get stuff paid for if you're on a full scholarship. You may not have to work, but when that time is done and you don't have that career for sports where you get paid, what do you do? So I do believe having that support system and having the Athletes Commission, that way you can have that support. You have someone that can speak to you on what does that transition look like, but also the transition from Grenada to college. What does that look like? A lot of our athletes need that support. And I must say, working with the Athletes Commission, getting the support, having the GOC like really listen to the things that we're putting forth and getting feedback and getting that support, I do believe that things are going to get better. It may take time, but there is like small steps, baby steps, but we're going to get there. But it takes all of us to get this work done. We can't be different islands operating. We have to come together to make sure that our current athletes are being supported, they're getting what they need, and then the future is bright to where athletes are not running away because they're not seeing anything behind training every day, not getting a scholarship, or getting a scholarship and finding that it's even harder. You can't come to the United States and knock on someone's door and say, give me some milk or give me a banana or something of that nature, right? So you have to be able to make sure that our athletes understand the world that they're navigating, the world that they're coming into, and how to really make sure that they're supported. So again, if we do this work together, I believe our athletes would benefit tremendously, because at the end of the day, every other country, every other island is going to work hard to make sure that the athletes get what they need, and we just need to be there for them as well.
I'm very happy you made that statement, Hazel-Ann, and we are going to head to the first break in the program on that statement. When we come back, we look at the accomplishments of our fellow territories as it relates to the just concluded World Athletics Championship. We'll look at Jamaica and Cuba and so forth. And yeah, we'll just have the conversation. Folks, this is Beyond the Headlines for today. Gordon Joseph in your company together with my guest, Hazel-Ann Regis. That's a surname, that's a new surname. Hazel, what's it? Buckles.
It's Buckles.
Yes, Hazel-Ann Regis-Buckles. And of course, a man of sports here, Dexter Mitchell. We take that break, we'll be back after this.
Part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joints and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
Welcome back, viewers, and this is Beyond the Headlines for today, Monday, the 20th day of August, and we're talking the just concluded World Athletics Championship, in which we had 4 athletes representing Team Grenada, namely Kirani James in the 400 meters, Lyndon Victor in the decathlon, Anderson Peters in the javelin, and Haley Hazard in the 100 meters. As I said earlier, my guests tonight are Hazel-Ann Regis-Buckles and Miss Dexter Mitchell. Now, Dexter, Hazel-Ann went off on the Athletes Commission, and there's some points you wanted to make on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate Hazel and the other athletes and the other persons who are involved. I think that is the beginning of something very substantial and something important. She mentioned the challenges, for example, of athletes, even when you get the scholarship, you know, the preparation to go into the United States. I remember doing an interview once with Alan Francis, and he said going to New Jersey, I think that is where he went to the first time. He did not know not know about temperatures less than our temperatures here. Yeah. So the cold was a challenge for him. So I think the Athletes Commission is very, very important, and it ties into the direction we need to go. So while we wait on the sports policy, whether or not that comes, at least there is some movement to be able to prepare athletes for not just competition and competitive life, but the life thereafter. And I think Hazel mentioned it, there are challenges. What do you do? How do you assimilate yourself into a society when all you know is competition and travel and preparation and discipline? How do you operate within the confines of a normal society? So I think that is very important. And when you asked me to introduce myself earlier, one thing I did not and deliberately did not mention then was the Grenada Invitational and my involvement with it. It's an international meet that we hosted here in Grenada in 2017, 18, and 19. Obviously, the challenges with COVID set us back. And then we were slated for the 22nd of April of this year, but the track at the stadium has to be repaired. World Athletics were not going to allow us to host an international meet on the track and the state that it is in. So the government has agreed to replace the track, to have the track repaired. So that is going to take place before Carifta Games, which is slated for the end of March in 2024, and the Grenada Invitational is scheduled for the 20th of April. So our part, while there's the Athletes Commission, while we wait on the sports policy, our part is to create that opportunity for our local talent to be showcased to an international audience. Based on our track record, we are now a gold level meet, which means that we will be broadcast to over 155 countries worldwide. And countries that do not have the broadcast, people would have access to it on YouTube to the World Athletics platforms. So there are things that are happening. Like I said, the Athletes Commission, the continued showcase of our international athletes, and I know the guys continue to be excited. Anderson has not competed home as a professional in a professional competition. I know he has done some warm-up meets and so on, but where he has some of his peers competing, I know he's very excited about that. We know what that did here for Kirani when the stadium was renamed after him. The conversations continue with Lyndon. How do we incorporate kind of 3-event showcase so he can showcase his talent over 3 events during the course of the 2-hour program. So we are going to continue to do our part in partnership with World Athletics. We are supporting Hazel-Ann and the others with the Athletes Commission, and we are hopeful that sports policy gets done soon.
All right. Well, this is going to be our final touch on that aspect of the program tonight, but I want something definitive from both you and Hazel-Ann as it relates to what do you think or what would you like to see happen to ensure futuristically that Grenada has a name and a face and a brand that goes along with it in athletics throughout the region and by extension the international circuit?
Very practically, again, that conversation took place a year ago, and it has been taking place since the emergence of Alan Francis in 2004. I know there was some collection of funds and discussion as to what did we owe him, whether monetarily or otherwise. So very practically, proper compensation for the athletes. And you go around the region, Tia Lafon, who made the finals of the triple jump at the World Championships, even before she made it, when she broke the national record during the Diamond League circuit, was given $200,000, by the government of Dominica. So while we still wait on the sports policy, and I know that has been discussed, the compensation package will be included in the sports policy. But the guys are continuing to excel. So I think very practically, right now, a compensation package. So if we say a national record is worth $10, so that is across the board. A finals in a world championship is worth $20. That is right across the board. A medal is worth, whatever it is, worth in the finals of the world championships or in the Olympics. But we need to be definitive about those things. And like I said, it's not a Grenada problem. It's throughout the region. I have in my possession a proposal by the Trinidadian athletes that was sent to the government of Trinidad, and we are going to try to tailor it for our purposes here and submit it to government here. But very practically, for the immediate future, to compensate, some compensation package that not only acts as an incentive for the current athletes, but future athletes will look and say, you know what, I have something to aspire towards. So even in addition to the medals and the prestige that comes with it, I know that there is something I can put away, a little S that could take care of me, in the future. But we need to practically put something in place so that the athletes can be rewarded.
And that should be done with some measure of urgency.
We should have done it since last year.
Yeah, it should have been done already.
Yes, it should have been done a long time ago. Because I do agree.
Hazel-Ann, just hold for 1 sec. Mr. Producer, I don't know if it's a technical glitch or what, but we are not seeing ourselves here on the monitor, so I'm not seeing Hazel-Ann as she speaks at the moment. So I don't know I hope it's not going out that way.
And And while we wait on that, let me, in conversation again with Coach Paul Phillip, and he made that point very clear, that while the term professional athlete is used, we do not want to get carried away and feel that these guys are making millions and they can take care of themselves. Yes, they are professionals because they get paid to perform, they get paid to compete. But it is a very expensive undertaking. So, for example, Anderson had to go to Portugal to do his camp to get ready for World Championships. Lyndon had to go to Germany to go to a training center, and those centers cost probably 100 euros per day, to be able to get ready for the climates of Europe and so on. So they still do need the support. And like I said, to me, the practical thing to do right now is to compensate those athletes, especially now, because we have 2 consecutive years again of global championships. We have the Paris Olympics in 2024 and another edition of the World Championships in Tokyo in 2025. So let us prepare those athletes by compensating them properly and giving them an opportunity to do even better, because the Grenada story is a wonderful story for the international media.
Definitely. Hazel-Ann, I'd like you to come in now as to what we were talking about. And I'm just told that we have our next guest, Mr. Davis Adams. He's joining us via the Zoom platform. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Grenada. Good evening to your guests. Thanks for having me on.
All right, I don't usually go by the adage better late than never, but I'll excuse you in this case. All right. So we'll come to you momentarily. Hazel-Ann, I'd like to hear your take on what has to be done as of yesterday to ensure that Grenada maintains what it has and grow that portfolio of athletes that we have that can represent us, not just locally, regionally, but on the international market as well.
I do agree with Dexter. We have to get the sports policy together and execute it with urgency, because again, this could be a reason why so many of our athletes are not staying in the sports, are not competing professionally, because at the end of the day, you have to put food on the table, and medals don't put food on your table. You can't sell your medals. So having a compensation manual that will really guide our athletes, so it's not even a thought process, if I do this in this competition, this is what I'm going to earn. Because again, Paul is also right. Not all athletes who have a shoe contract is making millions of dollars. So there's a lot, but outside of the money piece, thinking about how do we support them, the mental well-being of our athletes, are we providing support around that guidelines? Because you can have the money piece without that mental well-being support. That could be another issue. Your nutrition, just talking about life after sports. So there are many pieces of things that we need. But I would say with urgency, athletes must be compensated. They must know that outside of competing and representing the country, they are going to be rewarded for the work that they're doing. I think that would motivate future athletes so that they don't feel like this is a waste of time.
There's something I need my ignorance to be rearranged here. Now, let's say, for example, Lyndon Victor, competing, placing third, representing Grenada, as Donald Trump would say, bigly. Are there any monetary compensations assigned to him, whether it's from the organizers of the event or from a national standpoint? What is the remuneration here?
Not nationally. As per the World Athletics range, the third place for individuals would be $22,000 US. A gold medal is $70,000 US. A silver is $35,000 US. And a bronze is 22, and you go right down to the 8th place, which is $5,000. So every person who makes a final will get some monetary remuneration. But as Coach Paul Phillip cautioned me last night, and Hazel could speak to it, a lot of that money goes into preparation. So like I said, I know Lyndon went to camp in Germany, which he has to pay for out of pocket. He had to hire a coach, and I think that was one of the differences, and I think that led to some of the success that we saw. So he has to pay for that out of pocket. He has to pay for his supplements. He has to pay for his physiotherapists. And Lyndon in particular, Grenada, has so much to do because he has to buy all his equipment. Remember, he's not just buying some spikes or has a shoe contract that he could run onto the track, or in Anderson's case, it's just a javelin. He has to purchase javelins. He has to purchase shot put to train. He has to purchase a discus to train. He has to purchase pole vaults to train. In addition, he cannot board any airline because a lot of the airlines, especially in the states where he resides, would not carry the pole vaults and the javelins. So he has to select special airlines, which makes it difficult for his travel. So it is extreme. So yeah, so 22,000 sounds like a good payday, but at the end of it, there's so much expenses, so much associated, and especially for his season, where he had to be at the doctors so much and get so much additional help. And allow me to mention, and they are worthy of mention, Georgia Foggins and the CEO there, Mrs. Anya Chow Chung, who has supported Lyndon significantly over the last few years. I think that needs to be mentioned. And I'll also use the opportunity now to make a clarion call for corporate Grenada. Yes, we all celebrate and we wave our flags and we are proud of those guys.
But we need to do more than that.
We have to support them.
Yes,
and we are going to come knocking at your door. Some of that has already begun. Letters have gone out since before the World Championships asking.
Hazel-Ann is smiling away. Hazel-Ann, you want to chip in?
Yes, I'm smiling because if you have an agent, don't forget that percentage you have to pay. If you have an agent. And the corporate, yes, of course, I don't know where our government stands when it comes to that as well. But I think it's going to take a whole village, the whole of Grenada,
Yep.
like whether you're in the diaspora, whether you're in Grenada, like how do we market our athletes so that they can actually get money outside of the money that they're making? Because it is true, you can make $40,000 at a meet, but when you pay your agent, you buy supplements, you take care of bills and all that, you really don't have a lot of money left. So again, just really educating not just the public, but future athletes who want to get into it, like really and truly, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because again, if we don't make this, if we don't bring awareness to the sport, awareness for what it takes to get there, but most importantly, how do you survive as an athlete in this world is also like a big piece of it as well.
I'm very happy that my good friend Mr. Davis Adams joined us at this juncture because he's actively involved in the education system. Maybe it's a call for curriculum reformation, do a total transformation and reforming of our school's curriculum and placing some more emphasis, not more as in creating a state of imbalance, but significant emphasis, equity then, in terms of the academics and also the athletics, the sporting aspect of it, because we all know, I came from the classroom as well, and we all know that all our students that come to us, they're not any of them going to be a Dr. Sean Lambert and a Hazel-Ann Regis with that level of academical achievement. Some of them are going to do well in sports. Devon Smith is a good example. I thought I knew Devon wasn't going to be a doctor, but I knew he was going to be either a professional footballer or a cricketer. He opted to be a cricketer, although I think he was better at soccer.
Yeah, he was. He is.
So, Mr. Adams, what's your take on this? What can be done? We're looking for solutions. You joined us late on the set, but I do hope that you were following us along. And we were looking at the future of Grenada in terms of its athletes and its athletic representation regionally and internationally. And from where I sit, I feel a bit intimidated because I am not seeing that cadre of athletes coming forward. So what can be done from your involvement, sporting analyst and also an educator? What suggestions can you bring to the table? You need to unmute your mic.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So good night, Hazel-Ann. Good night, everyone over there. It's indeed a privilege to be on. Sorry to be late, of course, innocent. But I think, if I also chime in very quickly in what you said as to what can be done, I think Hazel-Ann has done a tremendous job in trying to figure out what's best for Grenada, how we can get this into the psyche of Grenada, that is, educate our athletes, but it begins with the schools. How do you educate them? What holds out there in the world, on the world stage? What's the cost of doing sports? What's the sacrifice of doing sports? And how do you make it, it's almost like a profession, but what returns would it bring back to you? So it starts from the schools, as you would have said, that is organizing your physical education, your curriculum in such a way that from an early age, a person is aspiring to be a sports athlete, understand what sacrifices are involved, and not just physical sacrifice, but the financial sacrifice from the end of the parent to the athlete and to the community as a whole, that is the corporate community. So you must do something at the school level, primary, secondary, tertiary, to educate athletes as to the sacrifice it takes, both financial and physical, to get to the top. And that will help, as well as, of course, involving the corporate community. I also heard Hazel-Ann talk about sports policy. I think that's another area where lots of education needs to be done, and more needs to be added to it, so that the aspect of education, getting people to understand the sacrifices involved, especially from a financial end as well as a physical end, what it takes to be at the top, and if we are willing to get there, how much our country is willing to go garner behind everyone, not just government, but the corporate community, the education community, and the community at large, to be able to assist our athletes to make that decision that is where they want to go.
The conversation tonight is not primarily on academics, but you said something there that flicked a switch in the back of my head. Career guidance officers in the schools being able to identify at a very early stage what trajectory individual students may take.
And that's extremely important, because the truth is, education is almost individual, and it's expensive. But if you can see where a child has a propensity to go, whether it's academic, whether it's sporting, whether it's mechanical, whether it's vocational, whether it's in the service industry, you have to have a really good eye, and that's where training for teachers and the whole education system comes in, where you see a child wants to go, you see the propensity for it, and then you can start involving not just the child but the parent as to how they can guide the children in terms of careers and where they want to go. That is one of the ways that we can assist our kids, and we can assist our country to get the best out of each and every individual.
Very, very valid point. So in your realm, you have some clout. I know you have some weight, all right? So effectuate that change wherever you can, okay? That's a challenge to you. All right, I want us to now turn our attention to the accomplishments of some of our regional partners as it relates to the just concluded athletics championship. We see Jamaica winning 12 medals, all right? Cuba, they had a number of medals as well. What do you think is different in their jurisdiction that make their athletes outperform us? Do you think, I mean, I know we have a disparity in terms of the populace, a wider cache to select from, but what do you think? I mean, Dexter, you would have a fun knowledge of that because you're a real sports enthusiast. Mr. Adams also, well, Hazel-Ann leaves sports. So what do you think from a regional perspective? What do you think causes our regional partners to do better than us in terms of medals collection?
Well, I don't think that they've done better than us per capita.
Per capita,
we would have won again.
Yes.
I mean, every time we go to one of those championships and we get at least one medal, we win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the numbers are, and I was looking at it before I came on the program tonight, 202 countries in the world participated in the World Championships. Less than 50 countries on the medal, about 46 countries on the medal. Grenada happens to be one of those countries.
One of those 46?
Yes. Brazil only won one medal. The population of Germany is 83.2 million. They did not win a medal. So I don't think anybody is outperforming us.
Right. Yeah. But I think I get the point. Yes. What I'm talking about. You know, when we look at, I mean, Hazel-Ann is here. When we look at Fraser Price and
the success of Jamaica is not based on anything that the Ministry of Sport or the government of Jamaica is doing.
Is it the blue dashing?
No, it's not. The success of Jamaica is based on investment. So they have some of the best coaches in the world. The coaches remain at home. The athletes train at home. Now, when you hire local coaches and you pay them, it means that they are well off. They are in a position where they can work with younger athletes. So the Jamaicans, think about it, most of the Jamaicans are not going off to the States. They are not going off to colleges per se. They are staying home, becoming professional, being very successful, and paying the local coaches, who in turn can impart the experience and the knowledge onto young athletes until they in turn become professionals and they can pay the coaches. So that is the success of the Jamaican system. There was a video floating around social media a couple of months ago where Osafa Powell was hitting out at the government and speaking to the fact that they had not been supported. He was promised a piece of land and some cash since 2005. So Jamaica has the same challenges as we do in terms of the sports policy. And that does not excuse the authorities here for not implementing our sports policy. Cuba, of course, we know Cuba does things differently. So they identify talent very early, baseball players, the athletes and so on. You know, that is what you do for a living. The government takes care of you. So they would have the success that way. The success in Puerto Rico is based on the US system, opportunities to go to college. Trinidad is struggling right now. We saw Walcott got injured this championships. Richards is the Indo world champion in the 400 meter, but again, no policy, no set policy. The athletes are basically on their own doing it. St. Lucia has a young athlete who did very well collegiately, Julian Alfred, and I know as a fan of field sports, Hazel-Ann must be following her very closely. Dominica has a triple jump athlete, Tia Lafon, who is doing extremely well, and the Dominicans are ecstatic that she made the final of a world championship event. No, that has become the norm for us, you know, so yeah. we cannot take those things for granted. But we don't have policies in the region. I mean, it's not just track and field. I think we don't have a policy for the development of cricket. We kind of took it for granted that Richards and those guys are great, and they're always going to be great. After Junior Murray, after Devon Smith, there is no serious development program. I mean, Junior Murray has his academy, and Ray Duncan has something in St. David and so on. And you recognize that the success of cricket in Grenada comes out of
St. David
where,
and Junior Murray.
Exactly, where the young people are nurtured. So I think we really need to get serious if we want to be able to celebrate, and not just celebrate, the fact that Grenada was featured as prominently as it was to millions of people around the world is worth the investment.
Hazel?
Yes, I definitely think exactly what you're saying is we have challenges no matter where we go, no matter the country. But I think when you speak of Jamaica, Cuba, and other countries, you speak on the investment, right? So whether you're supported by the government or the specific sporting organizations, you have an investment in athletes, and that investment could come from just community members, just people in the community, whether they're in the diaspora or whether they're local, just really invested in the athletes. And it's a culture, right? If we think about sports, think about Jamaica. They want to be seen. They want to be known. So it's a culture thing as well. I do agree with keeping the athletes local. That has really helped tremendously because, again, you're making that investment. You have specific plans for your athletes. They go to school at a certain time. They train at a certain time. They see the physio at a certain time. So it's like having a plan for them. And the plan is, okay, it's not to pick at the championship, but it's to be prepared for Worlds. So you identify them early, you have a training plan for them, and you make sure that you execute that plan. So a lot of the islands or the countries that are dominated and doing well have specific plans in place for their athletes, especially the ones that they have identified at an early age and work them all the way to the championships. If you're in the US, you have to run collegiate. You have no option, you have no choice. This is where your scholarship is set. So having that conversation with the coach, do I peak at NCAA? Do I make sure I'm prepared for the World Championship? So again, when you keep your athletes locally and you really have that source resources out there for them to make sure that they're fully prepared, you have better results.
May I chime in also?
Go right ahead, Adams.
Yeah, I was saying, Hazel-Ann spoke about return on investment and also Dexter. The truth is, return on investment doesn't always have to be financial, because when you look at the impact that sports has on the individual and on the community, what it does to enhance community interaction, what it does for health, you can't just only measure return on investment in terms of money. So when Grenada invests in the sporting landscape, when the government invests in the sporting landscape or corporate community invests in the sporting landscape, it doesn't have to be financial return on investment, but when you look at the health, when you look at the community and the social interaction and social cohesion, when you look at the support systems that are there, that for me is tremendous return on investment that we can have when we invest in sport and we encourage more people to get involved in sport. So that's one thing. Another thing I think that is sports policy to make it even more effective is the fact that we want to develop a culture of having clubs and so around coaches, giving coaches the energy and the motivation to coach and to get the best out of the young, promising talent. But again, what are the benchmarks that will you have from the sports policy to ensure that coaches who are coaching and are being remunerated in some way, what benchmarks do you have for them in terms of the turnout on athletes? That also is something that we might want to talk about, so that at the end of the day, you can be able to gauge the investment, you can be able to see the results, and you can see the return on investment.
And absolutely. And how do we support the coaches? Because remember, a lot of them are doing this on their own timing. They're giving back. So I think when we think about return on investment, we have to think about it from all aspects, from all the way from the educators, right? Because in school, that's a piece that they're there. Even though you're getting a salary, you're going to be above and beyond to make sure that they get the educational pieces. I do agree that it's not just about the financial piece of it. While that do play a great role, I believe that, again, investment comes in many ways, right? So even if I am a coach and I am going out there, I may not have all of the money in the world, but I'm giving all of my time to invest in an athlete, but at the same time, how do we support them as well?
And I don't think it would be fair to say that our coaches here are not motivated. I mean, I can speak of a few of them. Wayne Maxwin, very, professional, and he is committed. My good friend, I can't remember his correct name, but Hazel-Ann might remember him. He's a coach up at St. David's Sec. I call him Smeshy.
Smeshy, yeah.
Right. Even during the week, I met him at a particular location with supplies. School is on vacation, but he has children training. Had to pick him up because he was waiting on a ride. That's how committed he was. Waiting on a ride to get to La Sagesse. Had to stop on the road to get ice, and all this is extracurricular for him. I mean, he's supposed to, but that's the level of Coach Denny's. I mean, she's a senior now, but she's going and going. So I don't think we're bankrupt as it relates to commitment from our coaches, but at some point in time, we have to realize that life is real. There are other facets of life that must be touched as well.
What I would like to say to that, and Mr. Adams' point, and I like his input coming from the standpoint of an educator, but those are the long-term plans. We have athletes who are extremely successful, who are representing us very well. So I would not want to come back here next year after the Olympics
on the policy
and talk about what should be done. I think we have a wonderful opportunity right now. We have some exemplary ambassadors, the quality of the man that Kieran is. And I just did a story that was published in one of the local newspapers, and I reached out to LaShawn Merritt and to Otto Bolden and Louis Johnson and folks of that caliber. And the things they had to say about Kieran, speaking of the man that he is and his desire to overcome challenges. His brother mentioned the fact that when the coach died, that they expected he was going to retire from track and field because of how close he was to his coach. And he announced a few weeks later to them that he was going to the World Championships. He did not have to do that. When he was diagnosed with Graves' disease, he could have stopped. When he lost his mom, he could have stopped. He was born in gun battle. He had an excuse not to be successful. So we cannot take those things for granted, and I don't want us to miss this opportunity talking about what has to be done 5 years from now. Let us properly reward them, and it does not have to be monetary. The only thing that is named after Kirani is Lagoon Road, which is not a boulevard, and let us be very practical about that, and the stadium. Donald Quarry has a school named after him in Jamaica. Shirley-Ann Fraser-Price, not Shirley-Ann Fraser-Price, Veronica Campbell-Brown, has a primary school named after her. Let us reward those guys. Let us show that they mean something to us. And let us encourage the next generation of athletes to come. That yes, if you excel, if you do well, that you too can be rewarded.
That in itself is a very, very big motivator. I mean, could you imagine only today someone stopped me and asked, Innocent, is Friday a holiday? I said, not that I know of. Yeah, I understand Friday is Kirani Day. And I said, I don't know about it, and I'm in the media, I'm supposed to know, but it sounds good.
Do you remember where Alan Francis wrong about this?
In Moya?
No, they're wrong about by Tropicana restaurant. But again, it's not practical. There is nothing in his hometown to Union. Afi Fletcher, and she has represented West Indies since 2008, and we take those things for granted. So we can talk about the policy from now until Thy Kingdom Come and talk about what needs to be done for the future generation. But there are people who are doing well, who are representing us extremely well. Great ambassadors. We have 4 athletes who just came from the World Championships, all with college degrees, all who are celebrating each other, celebrating a bronze medal. And you saw the television camera focusing on Lyndon Victor winning a bronze over the silver and the gold medalists. This is Grenada. We are expanding the airport because we expect more people are going to come to Grenada because of what they are doing.
Things.
We cannot afford the advertising that is going to bring. This is the ad that we need.
But let me be the devil's advocate here. Is it a case that the administrators see these things as second fiddle? They're more bent on getting the big what should I say, the big projects, the physical things. And, and I always, that's another conversation that has to be had, because I am tempted to believe that we're focusing the wrong way, even in the tourism sector. Why build skyscrapers here? That's where the tourists come from. I think that we have to be more localized.
But how they view it, and I don't think it matters to us how the administrators view it. I mean, that's their view. We have to get them to understand that there are things that have to be done in the interest of country, in the interest of the athletes. So whether they have a particular view does not matter. They have to get on board and understand for this success to continue and for us to get even better. And we have 2 fantastic opportunities coming up: Paris 2024, Tokyo 2025. Let us do practically know what needs to be done to take care of our athletes, to give them the best chance to continue this success. Because when they are successful, Grenada is successful. Grenada benefits. And then we could have the other discussions about the policies and the things that needs to be done at the primary school level and the village level. But for now, do not take for granted what Anderson Peters and Lyndon Victor and Kirani James are doing for Grenada and for Grenadians.
So in essence, that has to be addressed with a measure of urgency.
It had to be addressed since
it should have been done since yesterday.
Since 2004 when Alan Francis made the finals of the Olympics.
Okay. All right.
So I do think that we have so many different conversations in so many different spaces. If we can come together and have those conversations as one, I think that would be helpful, because I know that all of the athletes are super proud to represent Grenada. Despite challenges, despite what is going on, they wear our country flag, they wear the clothes, they go with pride, and they take pride in what they're doing. So I do believe we have a lot of different conversations. It's time for us to come together as a community and really, really have an understanding of what it takes to push sports forward, and not just track and field, sports period.
Okay, tell you what, we take a final commercial break in the segment. We'll be back after these messages. Don't you go anywhere. Reminding you that you're listening and you're tuning to Beyond the Headlines for today, Monday, the 20th of August. Dexter Mitchell, Davis Adams, and of course, Hazel-Ann Regis-Buckles. We'll be back after this.
It's the 4th edition of Hubbard's Live Free for 1 year promotion. Cuatro Punto Cero. It's unbelievably amazing. You can win free fuel, free drinks, cash prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free cable, TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free passes to Sunshine Promotion events for 2023, free groceries, all for 1 whole year. And every winner receives a lunch package. Be sure to fill out the entry forms and enter it into the marked entry boxes at all Hubbard's departments and at participating outlets. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2023. Draws will be held every 2 weeks. Terms and conditions apply.
Freedom is driven to pursue that passion that keeps you up at night and makes you smile in your sleep. Freedom is bold to embrace the possibilities that can open up your world and conquer new heights. Freedom is fabulous, with bits and pieces that enhance the quality of your life. Freedom is what you do with the flexibility to change path or direction when you need to. Freedom breeds ambition and purpose while having loads of fun along the way. But most of all, freedom is well-deserved for the road traveled and the journey still to come. Unleash your freedom with Nexa Credit Union. Offer ends August 31st, 2023. Call us on 440-1354 or visit our website to pre-apply. Apply now. Freedom awaits.
Abood Store has the clothes for men who like to dress well. Abood Store has casual and dress shirts, dress pants, linen and stretch cotton shorts, vests, polos, waistcoats, blazers and suits. For casual, dressy and formal occasions, Abood Store caters for your needs. Abood Store is on St. John Street, St. George's. Call us on 440-2882 or message us on Facebook at MSF Abood Store.
Get ready for the ultimate football showdown as Grenada takes on Suriname in the much-anticipated CONCACAF Nations League. Join the excitement on Friday, September 8th at the Karani James Athletics Stadium. Secure your pavilion seats at just $30 or secondary stands for $20. School students, grab your seats in the secondary stand for $10. And remember, kids under 12 are absolutely free. Tickets available from Chucky's Bar, Grenadian Optical, Heather's Boutique, Shy's Bar, Victoria, Kelly's Hotspot, Guav, Calico Shopping Center, Sutez, and GoToVet.com. Come see Grenada battle. Be there to witness history. Friday, September 8th at 7 p.m. Kirani James Athletics Stadium. Be part of the action. Be part of the pride.
Welcome back. Beyond the headlines for today, Monday night at GBN's headquarters here on Observatory Road. Gordon Joseph in your company, together with Hazel-Ann, Regis-Buckles, Dexter Mitchell, and Mr. Davis Adams, the sports analyst and commentator. Now, during the break, something came to mind. We're talking about the level of emphasis that is placed on athletics and sports. And maybe a good place to start is celebrating our athletes. All right? Maybe that's a good place to start. And I would really like to hear you all chip in on this. Celebrating our athletes. When we drive through St. David, well, let's start from where it starts. When visitors come to Grenada, there should be a big sign of our national athletes at the airport. All right? This is Kirani's country. This is Hazel-Ann's country. This is Lyndon's country. When we're going to St. David, we should have Hazel-Ann and Lyndon and the guys. Alan Francic. Alan Francic is not from St. George. Alan Francic should have a monument up in Moya Conference where he's from. Maybe that's a good place to start. I'd love to hear you all on this.
Well, I definitely suggested that before, because when you go to Jamaica and other places, you step foot on the airport and you see all of their, not just athletes, but all of the personnel who have represented their country. I think that's a start. I also think it's important that we're in some form or shape in the educational curriculum in Grenada, right? So how do our athletes get to know about the past and the present? Is by educating them.
No, you can say it, Hazel-Ann. It's okay to be, you might be called conceited here, but it's okay to say students, Grenadian students need to know who Hazel-Ann Regis is.
Exactly.
They need to know because like Dexter sent out some information and I was like, Lord, I did not know this person went to Olympics and that was way before me. I was shocked. I thought I was the only one at first, right? So you think about that educational piece, that knowledge, knowing who are past and present, who paved the way for us to get here, because we have so many people who did this work before us. Who are they? And why aren't we part of the educational curriculums in Grenada, right? Why aren't we featured in different places in Grenada outside of just the name? And it is not all about money. Sometimes it's definitely about just acknowledging and celebrating our athletes' accomplishments, because I do believe awareness is important. So other athletes, upcoming athletes could see that. So I definitely agree that we need
motivated by it.
More awareness. Yes,
There's nothing that would be more motivating for a youngster, let's say from La Poterie, who is not academically inclined but can run long distance. I'd like to use the athletes from Blaise and St. Andrew. These athletes are natural long distance runners. They're not necessarily academicians, but if they know that if I run well and represent Grenada well, I might just have a statute in my community saying this is Peter Lynn George, who happened to be a very good long distance runner in my day of teaching. Mr. Davis, I'd like to hear from you. I want to come to Dexter last.
Yeah, I'm actually in favor of celebrating our athletes because I have done some research on my own, and there are names who have represented Grenada in the past in so many different disciplines that we have no idea of. Not even their families now are able to understand how well their father, the brother, the friend did for Grenada, because there's nothing which says anything about them. So why can't we do something to celebrate them? Why aren't the pictures, as Hazel-Ann said, up just to add to what Hazel-Ann said, why aren't the pictures up on the airport or along the streets? Why isn't something there to show that these people contributed to who's coming up, that these people contributed to Grenada? Why do we not have a sporting hall of fame in Grenada, maybe in each community, each parish, so that we know the athletes in each area who would have done well? Why aren't there Hall of Fame houses in Grenada? Why doesn't let's suppose the GFA has a wall of fame? Why doesn't the Athletic Association have a wall of fame? Why aren't the names in the schools more than you hear it only when an activity is there? So there's a lot that can be done, and I believe that starting at that point wouldn't cost much. A Hall of Fame doesn't cost much, whether it's for cricket, for athletics, but once they would have represented Grenada and done well, I think that's a good place to start.
Don't you think in recent times, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, he made a statement that he's on a drive to let the neighborhood reclaim the communities. This could also tie into this. It could transform the whole psyche of the communities if they know who their local heroes are. It might just change their whole psyche and behave themselves differently and be proud and not want to mess up the image of that community who has Hazel-Ann Regis as a star. We won't want to do anything to tarnish St. David because we're tarnishing Hazel-Ann or Lyndon or whoever. Dexter, what's your take?
I feel very passionately about this particular
don't you hear the excitement in my voice?
of the conversation. I've written extensively about it. Made some practical suggestions, did some research. So for example, in Gov, we know the main street in Gov is Upper Depodin, Lower Depodin Street. So I did the research to find out that there were some governors back in that time who basically named the street after themselves. So I think it would be practical to name the street, the main street in Gov after Kirani. There was a time when the churches were responsible for the schools that were named after them. So the St. John Anglican School, for example, was taken care of by the church. Those facilities now, institutions are now taken care of by the government of Grenada, not the churches. So again, I made the argument that the school could be renamed after Kirani James. And as much as we could, and being facetious, I'm even for naming the parish St. John after him, naming St. James, you know, but I'm going to end by saying this. We have a wonderful opportunity as we get ready to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our independence. And if we claim to be as proud as we say we are, we have an opportunity to do some very practical things. I think Afri Fletcher deserves it. Andrew Fletcher deserves it. Devon Smith deserves it. The track and field athletes. We have, and the research that Hazel-Ann alluded to, we've had 51 people, 51 athletes across a variety of disciplines represent us at the Olympics. There should be some place, there should be some wall where you can go and read those names. I did the research, so I know what rung the competition ended, what position, the times or the distances and so on. That information is out there. I could make it available to whoever. And back to what Hazel-Ann said earlier on, there needs to be one conversation. I think there's this, we kind of disjointed, too much egos. But we people feel like they don't need to speak to people. He's not so I remember, for example, well, you know me from Carnival, so when I first got in Carnival, you'd hear people say, oh, Dexter never played mass in his life, or he could manage Carnival. Yeah. Even when we did the Grenada Invitational, and the first year, you had some people saying, oh, he never run track, how he could head up a track meet. But running is not my specialty. Putting together events, taking care of the business side is my specialty. Exactly, so let us still have that one conversation. But as we talk about celebrating people, Innocent, you're a Calypsonian. You know who O'Neill Finley is?
Of course.
Calypsonian gun.
Yes.
Do you also know that he is the marathon record holder for Grenada?
I did not know that, but I know he's a very prolific athlete.
Exactly.
Very good at long distance.
Yeah. So again, that information to celebrate us and to celebrate our people. I think, and I'm just going to say again that as we get ready to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our independence, we don't need to wait on a sports policy. We have an opportunity to do some very practical things in very short order to highlight Grenadians who have done well for us and who have made us proud.
And these can be our baby steps to the mammoth transformation.
Exactly.
Hazel-Ann, what's your take?
Just quickly.
I definitely agree. But I just want to say, when I was growing up, when Ajama would sing song and I was in that song, my name was mentioned in that song, you all know how motivating that was? Like, it really, really did something to me. So I know that, again, just the little things that we can do can help our athletes.
Davis, before you come in, I just want to let our viewers and listeners know that we can accommodate a couple calls. The number that you can call in, it's 440-1252. Again, 440-1252. There's a small window of opportunity to join in on the conversation tonight, but I think there are four of us here. Maybe we can make a choir and make this loud song so that the relevant authorities could hear the passion, because this is really, really, really something that needs to happen as soon as last year.
Yeah.
Davis?
I was saying, Innocent, there are people who have walked the walk and are willing to support. As a matter of fact, earlier on this year, when Kirani came back to Grenada because he's part of the Co-op Bank family, and Co-op Bank sponsored National Primary School Sports, and we had a conversation. And even at that young age, well, I call him young, although he's a veteran in terms of sports, he acknowledged that he's willing to come back to Grenada and give of all his experiences that he has had over the past years of running. So as Hazel-Ann would have said, if we can only bring these folks together, they are willing to come together to discuss and to see what they can do to bring Grenada forward in sports. If we can only bring them together, listen to their experiences and take from it, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to bring Grenada forward.
We do have a caller on the line. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm here to mention in so many names. They never mentioned Andre Strode. Remember, he was the giant that fought for Grenada in boxing. He died as the Caribbean champion in heavyweight boxing. Nobody recognized that.
Okay, thank you very much, caller.
Thank you.
Sports historian here, Dexter. Are you aware of that?
No, but there are several names. I mean, we could spend the rest of the night until sunrise in the morning. I mean, calling names, and that's why I'm saying we need to speak with one voice. So the Boxing Association would submit their names, the basketball people would submit their names, the football people would submit their names, and determine the people who need to be recognized for what they have done. The late Trevor Twits. I mean, now that we are mentioning names for exactly, Richie Hughes and his contribution for the development of lawn tennis here in Grenada, and we could go on and on and on.
Okay.
But we need to put something in place practically, and I think, like I said, the 50th anniversary is a wonderful place to start.
We do have another caller. Caller, good night and welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good night, Innocent. You want to take over GBN from morning to evening?
You're jealous?
Anyway, concerning our celebration of our independence, I sometimes wonder if we are proud of our independence from the standpoint that the national anthem is not given the recognition that it should have. I want to point a finger at GBN, and I've mentioned it to Janelle already. I think you, Innocent, I also spoke to you about it. Now, at 5 o'clock in the morning, when your station is coming on, you hear the music, the music of the national anthem. Now, people who do not know the national anthem, they just hear the music, but what about the life of it, the words, the body? You don't hear that. And I think it's a gross disrespect to Grenada that the owners probably and the managers of GBN and maybe other radio stations too, I don't know if they play it because it's only GBN mostly I listen to, they don't play the words. And I am wondering whether or not they are ashamed of the name ever conscious of God. We aspire to build and advance as one people, one family. God bless our nation. Please, this is our independence song. This is our national anthem. And we need to hear the words of it. It's not just a piece of music. It has lyrics. And I think we should, under every circumstance, play that national anthem. It is like it's pushed out. You don't hear it. Anyway.
Thank you, caller.
Please do something.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your sporting contribution this evening. There's someone in cricket. Now that we're going down that line, do you remember Batai Thomas?
Yeah, Wesley Batai Thomas. In one of my writings, I made an argument that the Victoria Park in Grenville should be named after him. Yeah.
Yeah, and his bigger brother Evelyn, and then his younger brother Denison. Yeah. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good night, Innocent, and good night to your esteemed guest.
You're welcome.
I think Mr. Adams said. In terms of, he talks about how we can see the value of it in terms of the physical and all that stuff. And I think also you try to bring in what the Prime Minister said recently about bringing the community, taking by the community. We should see so that sometimes the emphasis on the monetary part of it, I think, is a disservice to people. It's much more now. As Evo Morales, of former president of Bolivia, said, sports is the one thing that can unite a nation and bring people together. And I think we should attempt to that, because in addition to providing opportunity for people to be disciplined and evolve into better human beings, it can create health, of course, some level of commerce, and it's so much. But I would agree with Adams also when he said part of the problem in Grenada is ego. And just let me end by saying that it's not just in sports, You know, if you ask people, for instance, in culture, who are the people that contribute towards the level of say, calypso and soca here? Some of the people who really contribute are not thinking about the singers, because I would be part of it. People, year after year, nobody recognized anybody who contributed. That's the problem.
Okay.
So we could begin by doing something for independence. for the 50th anniversary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. And this is going to be our final call. It's amazing how time flies when we were having not fun but productive discussion. Let's do the wrap. Ladies first, Hazel-Ann. Nice again seeing you after eons of years. I haven't seen this beautiful face, and it's so nice to see you tonight. Any parting words for our audience, Hazel-Ann?
I just want to say thank you all so much for inviting me to this program. I believe that we have a lot of work to do, but I believe in community. As a community, we can work together for the betterment of our current athletes and also for our future athletes. I do believe that sports give you just more than running or throwing a ball or making money. It's about culture. It's about making sure that our health aspects is taken into consideration as well. So there's many things that sports can do for us. So I just want us to continue to, again, make sure that we're working together for the betterment of Grenada and sports.
Hazel-Ann, we'll see you when you come down for the independence celebration. 1 pot of oil down at the Las Vegas playing field is in order.
Well, thank you for that oil down, because I sure will be reminding you when I get to Grenada for my oil down.
Definitely. Davis Adams, your parting words tonight.
Yeah, saying that thanks once again for being part of the panel, but saying that Hazel-Ann took the educational aspect. I want to take the now aspect. We have seen the talent that we have in Grenada. I think it's urgent and emergent that we start preparing for Paris 2024, and as Dexter would have said, preparing for Tokyo 2025. We see the talent we have, we understand what we have, and let us be urgent about preparing our athletes, getting the resources necessary, the people necessary to prepare our athletes so that they can represent Grenada well. What they do for Grenada, I think with money cannot really do it for us, so we really hope that the authorities would see the urgency in preparing our athletes for Paris as well as for Tokyo ASAP, so that we can have results and we can prepare people like Anderson and Lyndon and Kirani and all the others who have the talent, so that they can go out there and represent our country with pride.
Thank you very much. And in studio, Dexter.
We need to be less reactionary and more proactive. And we have an opportunity as we get ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary. We have to take ourselves seriously. We have an opportunity coming off of World Championships 2023 to prepare for the next 2 editions of Global Championships. There are other athletes outside of those who are featured now. There's a young man by the name of Isaiah Patrick, who's in Jamaica doing very well. There's a young Miss Alves, Jamora Alves from Carriacou, who's at St. John's University and doing very well. So let us get our act together, get very serious, and give those young athletes an opportunity. And the things that we've been talking about for the last 50 years. We're at 50, we are middle-aged now as a nation.
I'm an aged man.
Let us practically, we can continue all the conversations about policies and things that will take us into the future. But let us use this opportunity now. Let us use the 50th as an excuse to get some things done.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start.
And I definitely want to shout out Tyler Smith, our Paralympic athlete. We didn't talk more about that, but definitely shout out to him. And also keep promoting the Athletes Commission, because we do have a lot of activities and work ahead. So thank you all for making sure that athletes know that.
And from me, I'd like us to start celebrating our athletes and their communities individually. All right? Celebrate our athletes and the communities in which they are from, and that could be part of the transformation agenda. Hazel-Ann, Davis, Dexter, thank you very much for being a part of Beyond the Headlines tonight. To our guests, our panel, and to our audience, thank you very much. Gordon Joseph, the innocent one, I love you. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.